how is this man going to make it through 5 more years of being president, right? 1, and then if he wins re-election, another 4. He's 81. Think about, can you imagine an 86-year-old Joe Biden? Just the other day, we played a clip of him just 3 years ago when he was running, and he seemed so much more spry than he does today. 81, Emily. I don't mean to sound nasty. It's not coming from a nasty place. It's coming from just an observational place. I don't think he can do it.
No, I mean, I don't think he can do it either. And in fact, I actually thought, when he was running for president in 2020, he was already a stark contrast from when he left the vice presidency in early 2016. There was a huge, huge difference between 2016 Joe Biden and then 2019, 2020 Joe Biden. And since then, it has gotten progressively worse. And I think actually that's where you see that sort of become even a bigger campaign issue for him, because people have sort of watched Joe Biden age rapidly before their eyes. So it's one thing to come, from 2016 and then come back in 2020 and be old. But when it's happening in front of the public, I think people, on the one hand, it shows a lack of capacity to handle the daily duties. It's also really hard to watch. I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of people. Like, it's very uncomfortable and painful. It's embarrassing for the United States, but also just on a personal, like person-to-person level, watching him struggle, it feels awful. You feel badly for the guy to a certain extent. And then you realize, no, he's installed himself in this position of power because he thinks he should have it, even though he clearly shouldn't, because just on a basic competency level, he can't handle the job. But yeah, I mean, there's 81 for some people is different than 81 is for other people. And Joe Biden at the age of 81 is in incredibly rough shape, and the entire country can see that. And that's why even Democrats, a majority of Democrats wish they had another option.
Alan Dershowitz is 85. Just for the record, if you're starting to feel like, oh man, I don't want this to happen to me. Alan Dershowitz is 85. He's got the sharpest mind of anybody I know. It's incredible. It's crazy. So you can keep it together and stay sharp well into your 80s and beyond. It's just not happening in the case of Joe Biden, and we can tell. It reminds me of a joke that one of the comedians told about John McCain. Remember, he ran as a maverick, and they were saying John McCain was too old. John McCain was too old, and the comedian was saying, he really is a maverick. They say he's too old, and what does he do? He keeps aging. That's Joe Biden today. Just as a middle finger to everybody, he turns 81. How you like me now? Not so much is the answer, Eliana. Big new NBC poll, 1,000 registered voters. Not as good as likely, got to be honest. But okay, tells us something. Presidential approval rating now at 40, a drop of 6 points from last January. Disapproval, 57. That went up 7 points from last January. Steve Kornacki says that is the lowest President Biden has ever measured in our poll in terms of job approval. Look at the sea change from the start of the year, he went on. Democrats coming off a strong start following the 2022 midterms. The advantage has eroded. His approval among independents, 30%, 63% of independents disapprove. And more than 1 in 5 of Democrats disapprove of the job he's doing. Kornacki adds, Eliana, you need much more unified support in your own party if you are going to have a successful re-election campaign. So it's just nonstop, right? Every day we get a new one of these, and they're all going in the same direction.
Polls for him are apocalyptically bad. And I think what all of us are trying to reconcile is that from the 2022 election on, several special elections, Democrats have performed well. And so either Democrats perform well when Biden is not on the ballot, and that's the secret, or the polls are wrong. It's tough to figure quite what's happening with Democrats' overperformance from from what Biden is registering in the polls. And it could be that the disapproval is specifically linked to Biden and his age and is not trickling down to other Democrats. I think that's one possibility here. The other and the other question is, Biden, Democrats disapprove of him within his party. And I think the other open question here is if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, Biden's not running in a vacuum. Generic Republican performs really, really well, but obviously he's going to be running against an actual Republican candidate. Donald Trump is not uncontroversial in the Republican Party. And the question will be, how is that going to play out? Right now, I think we can say pretty confidently, Donald Trump is winning this election against Joe Biden. He's performing pretty well in the polls as the Republican nominee. And I think a lot of the reason for that is that he hasn't been out front and center. He's tied up by these court battles. It's not the basement campaign, but it's the courtroom campaign. And that's actually working for him. Watching Joe Biden shuffling around like a nursing home patient is painful and is not helpful to him. He actually can't do this job. You can see, and I think to what Emily was saying before, it is what is uncomfortable for me is to watch him shuffling around and scheduled from like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. There have been numerous stories written about that. And then to try to square that with the White House's insistence that this is the most energetic guy they've ever seen. And oh my gosh, his aides can't keep up with him. It reminds me of when Thad Cochran, the late Mississippi senator, was running for re-election in 2014 or 2015 at the age of like 94. And they all said that about him too. It's just not believable, and people don't believe it.
Feinstein,
his aides can't keep up with him. All you can think is, what's wrong with those aides? What happened to what aides are these? Go ahead, Emily.
No, I was saying they did the same thing with Dianne Feinstein. To Eliana's point, every time it happens, and our friends over at Pravda just run with it sometimes. Sometimes they don't because it's so obvious they can't ignore it. But sometimes they're like, this is just, I've read Axios reporting that takes, it's seriously when these aides are telling them we just cannot keep up with this president. He's so spry and mentally, he's 20 years old. It's just laughable. And, the American public doesn't buy it. And I actually think that's an interesting element here as people have tried to figure out.
Before you complete your thought.
Sure, Jan.
Okay, keep going.
It's like being on Howard Stern. They have the polling that shows the New York Times Siena poll that went super viral a couple of weeks ago, showing Black support for Joe Biden dipping in a way that Democrats can't wrap their head around. Why would it happen between, 2020, which by the way was in the middle of the pandemic, and now? Well, I really think a lot of it comes down to independent media starting to bypass the gatekeepers. And I was just talking to a pollster on Breaking Points this morning who was in Georgia recently talking to people who are, quote, double disapprovers. They don't like Trump, they don't like Biden, and they're swinging for Trump. And one reason he said is that, those viral clips for Joe Biden of him falling down, whatever else it is, the media has no control over those anymore. There's no gatekeepers. You're seeing them go viral on TikTok, on Instagram, and that is even more damaging for Joe Biden in this environment where there aren't gatekeepers, who aren't playing that 24/7 on a loop.
Axelrod weighed in again. Axelrod is the one who kind of said he's going to have to make the decision about whether he steps down. It was a very clear message. Please step down for the good of the party and the country. And then Biden allegedly called him a prick. And Maureen Dowd wrote a column on Sunday saying, David Axelrod, he's not a prick. And Axelrod said, I don't care what he calls me. It's fine. I don't care if they think I'm a prick. That's fine. He wrote, I hope they don't think the polls are wrong, though, because they're not. And he went on, I think Biden has a 50-50 shot here, but no better than that. Maybe worse, maybe a little worse. He thinks he can cheat nature here, and it's really risky. They've got a real problem if they are counting on Trump to win it for them. I remember Hillary doing that too. And Eliana, the thing is, Trump beat Hillary. Trump never polled this well against Hillary. Now in poll after poll, and we just got a new one, Trump's beating Biden. I don't think he ever was beating Hillary in one poll prior to the day he actually beat Hillary at the only poll that matters.
Trump has never polled this well, and Biden has never polled this poorly. It's a dangerous combination for Democrats, and Trump doesn't have the nomination yet. But you have to keep in mind, he's who Democrats want to run against. every other Republican candidate, sans Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't want to pull a Donna Brazil here. I know we'll get to that. But polling better against Joe Biden. Nikki Haley in many polls is leading him by 7 to 10 points. He's the one they want to face off against, and Biden is polling quite poorly against him right now.
It's finally here. The cbdistillery.com Black Friday sale. It's on, and it's incredible. Right now, you can get up to 40% off everything when you use the code BF2023. BF2023. Choose from a range of expert-formulated CBD and other plant-based solutions for relaxation, stress, sleep, pain after physical activity, even mood and focus. Imagine that, a calm mind and deep sleep throughout the whole night. Sounds amazing, right? No artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, or sweeteners, just 100% clean ingredients. Don't miss this massive sale and get up to 40% off your order. Visit cbdistillery.com and enter the code BF2023. What does BF stand for? Best friend? I could think of some other things. I'm just skipping them in my head. cbdistillery.com. Enter BF2023. cbdistillery.com. Not available in Idaho, Iowa, and South Dakota. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.